Ethiopian Bible Mysteries Revealed by Black Jesus. The books they don't want you to read. The Ethiopian Bible stands as one of the world's oldest and most complete biblical collections, rich with mysteries hidden for centuries from mainstream Western audiences. Unlike the familiar Western Bible, this ancient text includes books and teachings long removed from Christian canon by the early church councils. In a time when curiosity about the origins of faith is at an all-time high, Black Jesus has emerged as a powerful symbol, guiding us back to these sacred writings. What truths lie within the Ethiopian Bible, and why has this knowledge been obscured for so long? This essay embarks on a journey through the ancient texts of the Ethiopian Bible, unveiling truths that could shift our entire understanding of spirituality, humanity, and divine purpose. We'll uncover the unique books within its pages, examine the striking theological differences from Western doctrine, explore why these sacred texts were excluded, and confront the potential transformation that lies in rediscovering them. Join us on this journey, and if you find these insights meaningful, subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective matters, and together we can explore the mysteries of these ancient teachings. 1. Why they were excluded. The Ethiopian Bible's distinct richness and inclusion of diverse, mystical texts raise a crucial question. Why did Western Christian leaders exclude these powerful writings from their canon? Understanding the reasons behind these exclusions sheds light not only on theological differences, but also on deeper cultural and political currents that shaped early Christianity. When the early church councils set out to formalize the Western Bible, they were making choices that would define the faith for centuries. Yet, these choices weren't solely about theology. Rather, they reveal a complex interplay of cultural biases, political agendas, and efforts to control the narrative of Christian faith. One of the primary reasons the Western Church excluded certain books from the canon was their highly mystical and complex content. In the Western tradition, early church leaders prioritized a worldview that valued predictability, order, and adherence to clearly defined doctrines. Texts such as the Book of Enoch, with its vivid tales of rebellious angels, cosmic battles, and divine secrets, presented a version of reality that defied simple categorization. Enoch's vision, filled with mysteries, prophecies, and accounts of supernatural beings who break from divine law, challenged the straightforward, orderly narrative that the church sought to maintain. For leaders concerned with an orderly, comprehensible faith, these stories risked creating confusion and raising questions that could weaken their theological control. In contrast to the linear narratives of the Western Bible, books like Enoch portray a reality where the divine realm is in constant interaction with humanity, and where cosmic events shape human lives. The Church likely viewed these tales of cosmic struggle as too dangerous, potentially opening the door to beliefs in alternative spiritual paths or competing understandings of God's nature. By excluding such texts, church leaders limited the scope of spiritual inquiry, discouraging believers from exploring ideas about divine beings, the afterlife, and cosmic justice that were prominent in early Christian and Jewish thought. In this way, the Western Church sought to safeguard its authority by narrowing the theological framework, rejecting books that might empower believers to view faith as an individual, mystical journey. Other texts, such as the Shepherd of Hermas, presented a radical vision of divine grace that challenged institutional control over spiritual matters. Hermas's teachings emphasized forgiveness, redemption, and an unbreakable connection between God and humanity. This message, which spoke to early Christians of boundless divine mercy, also implied that formal structures of religion were not necessary for personal salvation. Hermas describes a relationship with God that is deeply personal, unmediated, and accessible to all, emphasizing that every individual has direct access to divine grace. For a Western church invested in building an organized hierarchical structure, this direct and unregulated connection to God could threaten its position as an intermediary. Excluding texts that downplayed the church's institutional role allowed church leaders to centralize authority, reinforcing the idea that the clergy held unique access to God's forgiveness and blessings. By keeping the Shepherd of Hermas and similar texts out of the canon, the Church could maintain a model where the clergy was essential to spiritual guidance and salvation, effectively binding believers to the Church hierarchy. Beyond theology, cultural and political factors played a powerful role in these exclusions. Many of the texts in the Ethiopian Bible align closely with African, Middle Eastern, and Eastern spiritual traditions, reflecting a worldview rich with mysticism, cosmology, and deeply personal divine relationships. This was a vision of faith shaped by the cultural and spiritual wisdom of communities from outside the European sphere. As Christianity spread westward and became increasingly centralized within the Roman Empire, there was a deliberate attempt to distance the faith from these foreign influences. By rejecting texts that aligned with African and Eastern traditions, Western church leaders sought to create a uniquely Western Christianity, one that upheld European values and cultural norms. This disconnection served a dual purpose. First, it allowed Western Christianity to claim a sense of universality while simultaneously erasing the traditions and spiritual wisdom of non-European communities. Excluding African and Eastern texts reinforced a Eurocentric narrative that minimized the contributions of Christians in other regions, effectively making African and Eastern Christians mere footnotes in a history written by the West. Secondly, this cultural and political exclusion served to undermine any potential influence that African and Eastern Christianity might have on the faith's development, thus consolidating power within a European framework. The Ethiopian Bible, by contrast, preserved these ancient texts and traditions, holding on to wisdom that many Western leaders preferred to keep hidden or erased. Black Jesus becomes a powerful symbol in this context, personifying a message that transcends geographical and cultural boundaries. His representation speaks to the broader African and Eastern heritage that the Western Church attempted to suppress, revealing that early Christianity was not a monolithic European faith, but a diverse, global movement with roots extending deeply into African soil. This Black Jesus serves as a reminder that Christianity's origins were multifaceted, and that the faith was nurtured and shaped by African and Middle Eastern traditions long before it became centralized in Europe. By excluding certain books, early Western Church leaders were able to build a centralized structure that relied on controlled narratives and limited interpretations. Texts that aligned with African and Eastern spirituality often embodied a worldview that emphasized cosmic balance, direct access to divine power, and an interconnectedness that defied hierarchical authority. These elements could inspire believers to see their faith as a direct relationship with the divine, rather than as a path solely mediated through church institutions. This challenge to centralized power threatened the Church's authority, potentially empowering individuals and communities to interpret faith on their own terms. In excluding these texts, the Western Church leaders laid the foundation for a Christianity where doctrine could be regulated, spiritual truths defined by church councils, and alternative interpretations dismissed as heretical. The Ethiopian Bible, preserved outside this centralized structure, stands as a testament to a Christianity that remains true to its roots, open to diverse interpretations, and resistant to institutional control. It reminds us that early Christianity was not singular, but marked by a diversity of beliefs, practices, and texts that spoke to the varied experiences of believers across different cultures and geographies. Second revelations from the Ethiopian Texts. The Ethiopian Bible offers a portal to a worldview where the spiritual realm is deeply intertwined with the human experience. Its messages challenge the traditional, often rigid doctrines of Western Christianity, presenting instead a dynamic and inclusive vision of divinity. In these texts, humanity does not merely observe a distant God, but is immersed in an active divine narrative. Exploring the Ethiopian Bible uncovers revelations that may redefine Western conceptions of angels, justice, redemption, and cosmic order. These texts call us to a deeper understanding of our relationship with the divine and our roles within a cosmic story that transcends earthly boundaries. One of the most profound aspects of the Ethiopian texts is the portrayal of divine beings as intimately involved in human life. Unlike the Western Bible, where angels often appear as rare messengers at specific moments, the Ethiopian texts envision angels and other divine entities as constant participants in our lives. In the book of Enoch, for instance, angels are not only active, but serve as stewards of humanity's journey, assuming roles as protectors, teachers, and even witnesses to our struggles. This connection invites believers to view angels not as distant beings, but as compassionate allies, invested in human flourishing. This unique portrayal suggests that we are never truly alone. We are part of a cosmic drama, guided by beings whose purpose is to walk alongside us, sharing both our struggles and triumphs. It implies that the universe itself is alive with divine presence, resonating with energies that act on our behalf. For those who feel isolated in today's fast-paced, disconnected world, the Ethiopian Bible offers a vision of companionship with the unseen, a belief that every action, thought, and desire is seen and valued in the broader tapestry of existence. This is a call to recognize that each of us plays an active role in a divine narrative, where unseen forces of light stand by, ready to intervene, guide, and inspire. The Ethiopian Bible's commitment to justice is unyielding. Through prophetic texts like the Book of Enoch, it foretells a world where divine justice will inevitably triumph over oppression, tyranny, and all forces of evil. In Enoch, we find tales of angelic beings who chose to defy God and subsequently fell, leading to cosmic battles that echo the struggles faced by the oppressed throughout history. The fall of these angels becomes symbolic of the downfall of any force that seeks to exploit or harm humanity. This vision of justice is not passive. It is a fierce, cosmic reckoning that promises liberation for those who suffer under unjust rule. In an age where systemic injustice and inequality are at the forefront of American discourse, these texts offer a profound hope that the struggles of the oppressed are not ignored by the divine. Rather, they affirm that divine forces align with those who seek freedom, truth, and dignity. The Ethiopian Bible calls out to those fighting for justice, assuring them that God stands on the side of the oppressed. This message challenges believers to see justice not merely as a moral option, but as a divine mandate, a sacred responsibility entrusted to all who bear the image of God. Through this lens, Black Jesus emerges as a liberator, speaking directly to marginalized communities and to all who feel the weight of systemic oppression. His call for justice resonates with those seeking change in a world that often feels dominated by power structures indifferent to the suffering of the powerless. In a time when social justice is both a personal and public issue, the Ethiopian Bible's vision stands as a bold declaration that divine justice is real, imminent, and unavoidable. The Shepherd of Hermas, a beautiful and pastoral text within. The Ethiopian Bible presents one of the most heartfelt messages of repentance and redemption. This book emphasizes that grace is boundless and accessible to all who seek it. While traditional Western narratives sometimes portray redemption as difficult to attain, the Shepherd of Hermas challenges this by depicting a God who is constantly calling His people back, always ready to forgive, and infinitely loving. Hermas's message is clear: no one is beyond the reach of divine love, and no sin is too great to be forgiven. For an American audience grappling with issues of guilt, forgiveness, and the need for self-reconciliation, this message is powerfully healing. In a culture marked by individual struggles with worthiness and acceptance, the Shepherd of Hermas provides profound relief. It tells readers that redemption is not something to be earned by perfection, but a gift freely offered by a compassionate God. This text urges readers to forgive themselves, to rise again from their mistakes, and to trust in the transformative power of divine mercy. It paints a picture of a God who is not only a judge, but also a healer, offering a path of restoration and wholeness. This vision of redemption is revolutionary, especially for communities where shame and the fear of judgment have often silenced voices and buried wounds. Hermas's teachings create space for all to embrace the idea of a personal, loving God who desires healing over condemnation, a message that is both timeless and urgently needed in our fractured world. Perhaps the most encompassing revelation from the Ethiopian Bible is its depiction of a cosmos imbued with divine wisdom. These ancient texts describe a universe where everything is interconnected, with humanity as one part of a vast, divinely ordered system. In a culture that often values scientific rationalism over spiritual insight, this vision may seem foreign or mythical. Yet, for those who feel isolated in a world that often denies meaning beyond the physical, the Ethiopian Bible speaks to a deep yearning for connectedness and purpose. In these texts, humanity is not separate from the divine order, but an integral part of it. The universe is described as a living entity, brimming with unseen forces and higher truths. The Book of Jubilees, for instance, emphasizes a divinely ordained calendar system meant to align human activities with cosmic rhythms. This ancient cosmology suggests that our actions are not arbitrary, but have meaning and resonance within a grand design. Every life, every soul, holds purpose within this sacred order, watched over by forces we may not always perceive, but that are nonetheless present. This wisdom resonates deeply with those searching for a sense of belonging in a world that often feels chaotic or meaningless. It invites believers to view their lives as part of a cosmic narrative, woven together by a Creator who sees, knows, and cares for each individual. In this sense, the Ethiopian Bible offers a profound counter-narrative to the isolation and alienation modernity can create. It speaks of a universe alive with intention and love, where every person's journey is part of a divine tapestry. Third, differences in theology. The Ethiopian Bible offers a profoundly different theological perspective compared to the Western Bible, presenting a spirituality that is more intricate, inclusive, and infused with divine mysteries. While the Western canon often centers on the singular theme of salvation through Jesus Christ's death and resurrection, the Ethiopian texts expand this narrative, painting a broader spiritual landscape where salvation is intertwined with ongoing divine interaction, angelic presence, and the cosmic struggle between good and evil. These theological distinctions reveal a worldview that sees humanity as part of an active, dynamic relationship with the divine. A relationship characterized by constant interaction and sacred responsibility. In the Ethiopian canon, salvation is not viewed as a one-time event, achieved solely through the acceptance of Christ, but as a continuous journey in which humanity is closely connected to the divine realm. Prophets, angels, and visions play a pivotal role, underscoring a belief that God communicates with humanity in varied and mystical ways. This perspective shifts the focus from a salvation centered solely on Christ's sacrifice to a more inclusive understanding of humanity's ongoing role in God's plan. It suggests that each individual has a purpose in this cosmic narrative, guided by divine beings and spiritual revelations, emphasizing a partnership between the divine and human realms. One of the most striking differences in the Ethiopian Bible is its depiction of humanity's constant contact with the divine. In the Western tradition, God often appears distant, communicating through select prophets, or through Christ himself. However, in the Ethiopian canon, humanity is continually in touch with God, through angelic visitations, dreams, and divine revelations. For instance, the Book of Enoch recounts multiple interactions between angels and humans, presenting a world where divine beings actively participate in guiding, teaching, and sometimes correcting humanity. This vision of an active divine presence challenges the Western idea of a distant God who intervenes only at specific moments. This continual divine presence implies a world where the sacred and secular are closely intertwined, suggesting that spiritual insight is available to those who are open to receiving it. For American readers, this perspective might feel both foreign and deeply resonant, especially as modern spirituality increasingly emphasizes personal connection with the divine. In Ethiopian theology, believers are not passive recipients of grace, but active participants in a divine drama, supported and guided by angels, prophets, and visions. This portrayal invites believers to seek personal revelations and to see their lives as part of a sacred journey where the divine is always close at hand. In the Ethiopian Bible, humanity's role in the divine plan is portrayed as more inclusive and universal than in the Western canon. Salvation is not presented as a one-size-fits-all solution, but as a journey where every individual has a role to play. This inclusive approach reflects a theology that values righteousness, personal accountability, and the pursuit of justice as essential elements of one's relationship with God. The Book of Jubilees, for example, emphasizes living in harmony with God's cosmic order, suggesting that every person has a unique part to play in maintaining this balance. By following divine commandments and aligning with God's will, humanity actively participates in the divine plan. This vision of humanity's role emphasizes spiritual agency and personal responsibility. Salvation is seen not only as an acceptance of Christ, but also as a commitment to live a life of righteousness, to pursue justice, and to act in harmony with divine principles. This view challenges Western notions of passive salvation, encouraging believers to embody their faith through action and virtue. For many, especially those in marginalized communities, this message of empowerment resonates as it affirms their worth and potential to make a positive impact on the world. In this context, Black Jesus becomes a symbol of liberation and advocacy, representing a perspective that values African and Eastern spiritual wisdom. His teachings reflect an understanding that salvation is not just about individual souls, but about communities, societies, and the entire cosmos. Black Jesus emphasizes that each person's journey matters, affirming a theology where every soul has purpose, and every action has spiritual weight. This vision of faith is deeply inclusive, drawing from African traditions that honor interconnectedness and the shared responsibility of uplifting one another. The Ethiopian Bible places a unique emphasis on righteousness and justice as central to one's relationship with God. This focus on ethical living aligns with the theological themes found in texts like the Book of Enoch, where the righteous are rewarded and the wicked face divine judgment. Unlike the Western Bible's emphasis on salvation through faith alone, the Ethiopian Bible insists that righteousness, living a life aligned with God's commandments, is crucial to one's spiritual journey. Enoch's visions of cosmic justice reinforce this, illustrating a world where divine justice actively confronts human evil and oppression. This theology of justice speaks directly to contemporary issues, particularly within communities that have faced systemic injustice. The Ethiopian Bible's vision offers hope and assurance that the struggles of the oppressed are not overlooked by God, but are integral to the cosmic order. Justice is not simply a social or political goal, it is a divine mandate, and those who pursue justice are fulfilling a sacred role. In a modern context, where issues of inequality and social justice are deeply felt, this emphasis on righteousness as a form of divine partnership holds significant meaning, inviting believers to view activism, community service, and compassion as forms of spiritual practice. The role of Black Jesus in this context is that of a liberator who calls for justice and advocates for the oppressed. He stands as a figure who understands and shares the experiences of marginalized communities, reminding believers that God's love extends especially to those who suffer. This message challenges traditional Western portrayals of Jesus, offering instead a figure who represents resilience, compassion, and a commitment to social justice, qualities that resonate powerfully with those seeking a faith that is relevant to real-world struggles. The Ethiopian Bible places a unique emphasis on divine beings, angels, watchers, and other celestial entities who actively participate in human affairs. Unlike the Western Bible, where angels are often presented as occasional messengers, the Ethiopian texts depict these beings as closely involved in the lives of humans, serving as protectors, guides, and enforcers of divine will. The Book of Enoch, for instance, presents the Watchers, a group of angels who defy God by interacting with humanity in forbidden ways, leading to dramatic consequences that impact both heavenly and earthly realms. This portrayal suggests a universe where divine forces are constantly interacting with the human world, overseeing the moral and spiritual development of humanity. For American audiences fascinated by spiritual guides, guardian angels, and the unseen forces that shape our lives, the Ethiopian Bible offers a powerful affirmation of these beliefs. It presents a worldview where we are never truly alone, but are watched over, guided, and even corrected by higher beings whose purpose is to support humanity's journey toward righteousness. The presence of these divine beings suggests a more collaborative relationship between God and humanity, one where angels are intimately involved in the struggles, triumphs, and growth of individuals and communities. This perspective is both comforting and empowering, reminding believers that they are part of a larger divine community that includes not only other humans, but also celestial beings who have a vested interest in humanity's journey. It invites a sense of sacred responsibility, as believers recognize that their actions resonate beyond the earthly realm, contributing to a divine plan that encompasses both heaven and earth.